You are not God. You were never meant to carry the whole world on your shoulders. So why are you still trying? Listen, there's a freedom that only comes when you release control. It's time to stop striving and start trusting. We've all been there, stressed, overwhelmed, and trying to force outcomes that are beyond our control. But what if the very thing we're chasing is only found when we surrender? Today we're diving deep into what it truly means to leave everything in God's hands, because His hands are stronger, wiser, and always on time. The hands that shaped the stars, the hands that pushed mountains into position and whispered to the oceans, "You may come this far and no farther." The same hands that formed the galaxies with one word, the hands that designed the intricate dance between the moon and tides, are the same hands holding your future. Let that settle into your spirit for a moment. You are not held by randomness. You are not held by coincidence. You are not gripped by fate. You are held by divinity. God's hands are not shaky. His hands do not tremble when economies fall. His hands do not quiver when wars rage. His hands are not uncertain when the doctor says there's nothing more we can do. His hands are not moved by panic. His hands are moved by purpose. He is not intimidated by your situation. He is not overwhelmed by your crisis. He is not confused by your past or worried about your future. He is sovereign, supreme in power, unmatched in wisdom, and unshakable in authority. You see, when you understand the character of God, you stop panicking when things don't go your way. You stop falling apart when doors close. You stop questioning your worth when people walk away. Because when your life is in the hands of the Almighty, no human can override your destiny. No devil in hell can cancel what God has decreed. And no delay, no rejection, no heartbreak is ever wasted, because you're not just in time, you are in God's hands. There's a difference between being in control and being in charge. God may not hand you control, because control is an illusion, but He is always in charge. He sees the end from the beginning. He stands outside of time. While you're worrying about what's next, He's already standing in it. He's already prepared provision for the journey you haven't even started. He's already orchestrated divine connections with people you haven't even met yet. He's not guessing. He's governing. Psalm 46:10 doesn't say, try your best and hope for the best. It says, be still and know that I am God. It's not a soft, comforting suggestion, it's a command. And that command is not passive, it's powerful. Being still in a storm is an act of war against anxiety. It is an act of resistance against fear. It's declaring with every fiber of your being, I may not understand this, but I know who holds me. I know who controls the wind. I know who walks on waves. And that's enough for me. We are a generation obsessed with control. We've been trained to micromanage every aspect of our lives, our careers, our relationships, our image. We live by calendars, notifications, and 5-year plans. And yet, despite all our effort, we still find ourselves wrestling with uncertainty. Why? Because peace isn't found in control. Peace is found in surrender. And surrender can only happen when you trust the hands you're surrendering to. Some of us are trying to carry what only God can hold. You're trying to fix it, force it, figure it out, and all the while God is whispering, if you just let go, I show you what I can do with that situation. But we're afraid. We think surrender means defeat. We think letting go means giving up. But the kingdom doesn't work like the world. In the kingdom, surrender is strategy. In the kingdom, letting go is how you win. In the kingdom, you rise by bowing, you gain by giving, and you lead by serving. So many people are exhausted, not because they're weak, but because they're misaligned. They're trying to drive a vehicle they weren't built to control. They're stressing over the steering wheel, but God never asked them to drive. He asked them to trust. Trust isn't passive. It's not sitting back with your arms crossed. Trust is active obedience. Trust is saying, I don't understand this, but I'll keep walking. It's saying, I can't see the way, but I'll take the next step. Trust is knowing that even when the path is unclear, the one who guides you is never confused. God is not surprised by what surprised you. The layoff didn't catch him off guard. The breakup didn't send him into panic mode. The diagnosis didn't alter his plan. He doesn't respond, he rules. He doesn't react, he reigns. And because of that, you can stop living like your life is hanging by a thread. You are not holding on to God. God is holding on to you, and he's not letting go. Some people believe in a distant God, a passive God, a God who set the world in motion and then stepped back. But that's not the God of the Bible. That's not the God who sent his son. That's not the God who promises to never leave you nor forsake you. That's not the God who numbers the hairs on your head and catches your every tear. The God I know is deeply involved, personally invested, intimately aware. He's not watching from a distance. He's walking right beside you. If you could see what God is doing behind the scenes, you would never doubt him again. But here's the challenge. He doesn't always show you. Sometimes the silence is the setup. Sometimes the waiting is the preparation. Sometimes the detour is actually the route. And if you don't trust his hands, you'll interpret his timing as abandonment. But hear this. Delay is not denial. Silence is not absence. When God seems quiet, he is often building the foundation for something greater. Let me speak to the person who feels like giving up. The one who's prayed and nothing changed. The one who's fasted and still sees the same mountain. Let me remind you, God's hands are not shaky. Just because you don't see the movement doesn't mean there's no progress. God works in layers. God works in depths. He's not just fixing the symptom, he's healing the root. He's not just opening a door, he's building your character so you can handle what's on the other side. We want breakthroughs without breaking. We want miracles without faith. We want elevation without pruning. But God doesn't work on our terms. He works on truth. And the truth is, the safest place to be is not in control. It's in his hands. That's where the peace is. That's where the clarity comes. That's where the purpose is unlocked. You can stop trying to be the author of your own story. That pen belongs to God, and trust me, he's a better writer than you are. His plot twists are better. His timing is perfect. His endings are glorious. You might be in the middle of a dark chapter right now, but the author isn't finished. The pen is still moving. The hand is still writing. The story isn't over. And when you truly believe that, you walk differently, you speak differently, you pray differently. You stop begging for outcomes and start trusting for alignment. You stop chasing validation and start resting in identity. You stop performing and start abiding. You stop striving to be seen and start living like you're already chosen. Let me be clear, leaving it in God's hands doesn't mean you do nothing. It means you do what he tells you. It means you obey, you walk, you sow, you serve, but you let him decide the results. You show up in faith, but you let him open the door. You take the step, but you let him provide the ground beneath your feet. You plant the seed, but you trust him for the harvest. Some of you are exhausted not because of life, but because of resistance. You're resisting his timing. You're resisting his way. You're trying to carry a calling in your own strength, but God is not looking for superheroes. He's looking for surrendered hearts. He's not impressed with your hustle. He's moved by your humility. You don't have to be everything. You don't have to fix everyone. You don't have to know what's next. All you have to do is place it, everything in his hands. Your future, your family, your finances, your fears. His hands are big enough to carry it all. and not just carry it, but redeem it, restore it, multiply it, use it for glory. You may not have clarity right now, but you can have confidence, not in yourself, but in Him, in the one who never fails, in the one who holds galaxies in one hand and your heart in the other. His grip doesn't slip, His promises don't fail, His plans don't falter. That's why you can stand strong in the storm. That's why you can walk through fire and not be burned, because you're not walking alone, you're held. The problem isn't always the burden, it's our refusal to let go of it. We live in a culture that idolizes control. We're taught from a young age that if we don't hold on tightly, if we don't fight for every inch, if we don't map out every single step, we'll lose. But let me tell you something powerful today. Some of your greatest breakthroughs won't come from holding on. They'll come from letting go. What you release from your hands, God will redeem in His. And His hands don't shake. His hands don't fumble. His hands don't get tired. The moment you unclench your fist and open your palm to the heavens, you're making a statement to the universe. I am not in control, but I trust the one who is. I know it's hard. I know surrender doesn't come naturally, because you think letting go means losing. But in the kingdom of God, it means gaining. When you let go of what you think is best, you make space for what God knows is best. He doesn't need your plan. He needs your permission, not your performance, your permission. Permission to move, to rearrange, to prune, to stretch, to elevate. You've been carrying things that were never meant to be your burden, carrying guilt, carrying fear, carrying the weight of people's expectations, carrying timelines, dreams, even relationships, thinking if you let go, it will fall apart. But here's the divine paradox. When you place something in God's hands, it's not lost. It's positioned. Positioned for growth, positioned for redemption, positioned for His purpose. Some of you have been holding on to a vision so tightly that you're suffocating it. You've been managing the vision instead of surrendering the mission. But visions aren't meant to be controlled, they're meant to be submitted. You cannot fulfill a divine vision with human strength. You need divine empowerment, and that comes through divine surrender. Let me make this plain. The same God who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days doesn't need your help. He needs your faith. Faith to release, faith to trust, faith to stop asking how and start saying yes. Because faith isn't just believing God can, it's trusting Him when you don't see how. That's where most people miss it. They think, I trust God as long as I can see the path. But if you can see it, it's not faith, it's confirmation. Faith steps out when the outcome is still invisible. Faith obeys when the details are incomplete. Faith walks on water, not because the water looks stable, but because the word is strong. And you cannot walk on water if you're still holding on to the boat. So let me ask you, what boat are you still clinging to? Is it the boat of comfort? The boat of your own understanding? The boat of past disappointments where you told yourself, if I don't manage it, it'll fail? That's not trust. That's fear wearing the mask of wisdom. God is not asking you to be reckless. He's asking you to be obedient. There's a difference. Recklessness acts without direction. Obedience acts on a word. And sometimes that word says, let go. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the need to control outcomes. Let go of the need to prove something to people who don't even know your calling. God does not redeem what we hide. He redeems what we release. As long as you're hiding your pain, you'll never see healing. As long as you're hiding your disappointment, you'll never experience restoration. But when you say, God, I give this to you, you open the floodgates of heaven to intervene. I know some of you have prayed and haven't seen results. You've waited, fasted, tithed, and still feel stuck. But could it be that you're praying for God to bless something He's waiting for you to release? He cannot bless what you refuse to surrender. God doesn't multiply what you hold back. He multiplies what you lay down. Remember the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish. It wasn't enough to feed the multitude while it was in his hands. But once he released it to Jesus, once he handed it over without reservation, it became more than enough. The miracle didn't happen in his grip, it happened in his release. And that same principle is true for you. You've got a seed in your hand and you've been trying to preserve it, protect it, keep it from the storm, but seeds aren't meant to be preserved, they're meant to be planted. And planting looks like loss, it looks like surrender, but beneath the surface, God is working. He's breaking, stretching, watering, rooting, and in time, what you thought you lost will return multiplied. God is the Redeemer. That's not just a title, it's His nature. He takes what looks broken and makes it whole. He takes what's empty and makes it overflow. But redemption is a transaction. You cannot receive it unless you give something up. Give Him the ashes and He'll give you beauty. Give Him your mourning and He'll give you joy. Give Him your weakness and He'll give you strength. But you've got to give it. You've got to lay it down, not halfway, not with strings attached, fully, willingly, completely. Maybe you're scared that if you let go, God won't catch you. But has He ever failed you before? Look back. Didn't He bring you through that storm? Didn't He carry you through that wilderness? Didn't He provide when there was nothing left? He's not about to stop now. His faithfulness didn't expire. His word is still active. His promise is still alive. And let me tell you something else. What you release, God doesn't just redeem for your benefit. He redeems it for His glory. That's why the enemy fights you so hard in this area. Because if you ever truly let go and let God take over, you become dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. You become a living testimony. You become a vessel of miracles. That relationship you gave up on, God can redeem it. That dream you buried, God can resurrect it. That past mistake you thought disqualified you, God can use it to elevate you. But only if you stop trying to fix it in your own strength and give it to Him in faith. You may not understand the process, but trust the character of the one who's guiding it. He doesn't waste pain. He doesn't miss details. And He doesn't need your understanding to accomplish His will. He needs your yes. Your breakthrough is on the other side of surrender. Your peace is on the other side of letting go. Your purpose is on the other side of releasing what's in your hands into what's in His. So let me ask you again. What are you holding on to that you need to release? Is it a dream that didn't work out the way you planned? Is it anger or bitterness from someone who hurt you? Is it shame from your past? Whatever it is, I challenge you today. Don't walk another step carrying what God asked you to lay down. You are not God. You are not the author of your life. You are not the finisher of your faith. He is. And He finishes what He starts. When you release what's in your hand, you allow Him to complete what He began in you. Not just fix it, perfect it. So stop trying to write the ending. Stop rewriting the past. Stop forcing the outcome and instead open your hands. Open your heart and say, God, I trust You. I release this to you. It's not mine to control. It's yours to complete. And when you do, you'll find a freedom you've never known, a peace that doesn't make sense, a strength you didn't have before. Because the power of release is not in what you lose, it's in what God redeems. Surrender isn't a sign of retreat. It's not waving a white flag in defeat or stepping away from your destiny. It's stepping deeper into it. The world may define surrender as weakness, but in the kingdom of God, it is the very doorway to strength. The most powerful people in Scripture, the ones who shaped nations and transformed generations, were never the loudest in the room. They were the ones who knew how to kneel. Surrender is not a one-time decision, it is a daily discipline. Every morning you wake up, you have to decide, will I take control today or will I trust God? And some days trust looks like taking a step. Other days it looks like standing still. Sometimes it's letting go of a relationship, a job, a dream that no longer fits your season. Other times it's holding on to a promise when everything around you says give up. Surrender is not passive, it is powerful obedience. The enemy wants you to think that surrender is soft, that it's for the weak. But don't be fooled. It takes far more strength to trust God in uncertainty than it does to panic in pride. The weak panic, the wise surrender. Look at Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. The most powerful moment of surrender the world has ever witnessed. He could have called down angels. He could have changed the plan, but instead he knelt and said, "Not my will, but yours be done." That prayer didn't just change his life, it changed eternity. Why? Because surrender activates the supernatural. You want to see heaven move in your life? Don't just pray harder, surrender deeper. God doesn't respond to panic, he responds to trust. And trust is proven in surrender. Even Jesus, the Son of God, showed us that divine destiny begins with surrender. What makes us think we can walk in God's purpose without doing the same? When you surrender, you shift the weight. You stop carrying what only God can handle. You stop trying to fix what only heaven can heal. You stop playing God and start trusting God. There are things you've been carrying, fears, decisions, outcomes that are not yours to carry. You've been trying to control the narrative, but God is the author. And the sooner you get your hands off the pen, the sooner He can write a better story. Hear me, surrender is not the end of your ambition, it's the real beginning of your anointing. The world will tell you to chase the crown, but God says pick up the cross. Because on the other side of surrender is resurrection power. There is new life. There is a story being written that's bigger than you, but it requires you to let go of what you think you know. The wisdom of surrender is that it repositions you. It moves you from the driver's seat to the passenger seat, not because you're lazy, but because you trust the one behind the wheel. God is not trying to rob you of progress. He is inviting you into partnership. You were not created to carry burdens alone. You were not designed to navigate life with clenched fists and a worried heart. You were made to walk in rhythm with the Spirit of God. And that rhythm begins with surrender. Even in your calling, even in your ministry, even in your purpose, you must surrender. Because the calling is too great to carry in the flesh. The burden is too heavy to hold without divine help. But when you surrender, God empowers you with grace, wisdom, and peace. Surrender is the secret weapon of the faithful. It is the key to a life of divine impact. It is not the absence of courage, it is the essence of courage. It is saying, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. And as Proverbs says, He will direct your path, not might, not possibly, He will. That's a promise. But the promise is activated by trust. And trust is activated by surrender. So the question today is simple. Will you surrender? Will you stop fighting battles that are not yours to fight? Will you release the outcomes you've tried to control? Will you trust the God who sees all, knows all, and works all things together for your good? Because when you surrender, you don't lose, you gain peace. You gain clarity. You gain strength. You gain access to the very wisdom of heaven. Surrender isn't weakness, it's wisdom, and it's time to live like it. You've done it your way long enough. You've carried burdens that weren't yours to bear. You've exhausted your energy trying to control outcomes that were never within your grasp to begin with. And in the process, you've traded your peace for pressure, your joy for anxiety, and your clarity for confusion. But now is the moment everything shifts. Because there comes a time when even the strongest must admit that strength alone is not enough. There comes a time when wisdom must speak louder than willpower. And that time is now. God never designed you to live this life carrying the weight of the world. You were created to walk in step with Him. Not ahead of Him, not behind Him, but with Him. That means you were built for relationship, not for relentless striving. So many of us have been taught to fight, to push, to hustle and grind until the doors open. But what if the greatest breakthroughs come not by force, but by faith? What if the door you're trying to kick down is only opened by the hand of God? The truth is, there's a kind of peace that you can earn. It's not found in your effort. It's not found in a perfect plan. It's found in surrender. Not surrender to defeat, but surrender to divine authority. When you finally lay your plans at His feet, you're not giving up. You're rising up in the Spirit, because what you place in God's hands doesn't diminish. It multiplies. What you surrender, He sanctifies. What you release, He redeems. I need you to hear this with every part of your spirit. You were never meant to do this alone. God is not a distant observer. He's not watching from the clouds waiting to see if you'll get it right. He is a present help in time of trouble. He's walking with you, talking with you, leading you, but only if you let Him. The hands that crafted the galaxies are the same hands stretched out toward you, waiting not to take from you, but to give to you, waiting to take the weight you've been dragging, waiting to lift what you thought couldn't be lifted. You see, leaving it in God's hands isn't a passive decision. It's a bold declaration of trust. It says, God, I believe that you see what I can't. I trust that you know what I don't. And even when I don't understand the road, I trust the one who paved it. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's spiritual maturity. That's kingdom thinking. Because here's the truth. Stress is a signal. Pressure is a messenger. Anxiety is a symptom. They are not enemies to be feared. They're indicators pointing you to a deeper truth. You've picked up something you were never meant to carry. You stepped into a place of self-dependence instead of divine alignment. And the moment you recognize that, you're already on the path back to peace. God never said you wouldn't face trials. He never promised you a life without storms. But he did promise his presence in the midst of it. And when the presence of God is in your storm, the storm loses its power to define your future. When you leave it in God's hands, you don't have to know the outcome. You just need to trust the author. There are some things in your life that won't shift until you shift your posture. As long as your hands are full of your own plans, your own timelines, your own expectations, there's no room for God to deposit his power. But the moment you lift your hands in surrender, you position yourself to receive. Because God doesn't pour his blessing into clenched fists. He pours it into open hands. And don't misunderstand, leaving it in God's hands doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing only what he has asked you to do and trusting him with the rest. It means obeying, not obsessing. Moving by faith, not fear. Operating with diligence, not desperation. That's the difference between striving in the flesh and walking in the spirit. One drains you, the other sustains you. So many of us are walking around spiritually exhausted, not because we're doing too much, but because we're doing too much without God. We've replaced divine strategy with human effort. We've substituted prayer with planning, faith with formulas, calling with comparison. But the Spirit of God is calling you back to trust, to rest, to surrender. God wants your hands off so he can put his hands on. When God puts his hand on a situation, what was stuck begins to move. What was broken begins to heal. What was dead begins to live again. When you step back, God steps in. When you surrender control, he releases direction. When you stop trying to be God, you've been praying for a breakthrough, but God is waiting on a breakdown, not of your spirit, but of your pride. He's waiting for you to say, I can't do this without you. That's not a prayer of defeat, it's a prayer of wisdom. And wisdom always precedes breakthrough. Pride blocks the flow of power, but humility opens the gates of heaven. The reason some things haven't changed in your life isn't because God isn't willing. It's because your hands are still on it. You're still trying to fix it, figure it out, or force it into place. But God doesn't need your manipulation. He desires your submission. And when you finally let go, you'll see what his power can do without your interference. God is not in a hurry, and he's not late, but he's waiting for your trust to align with his timing. Timing is everything in the kingdom. What you call delay, God calls preparation. What you call silence, God calls strategy. Just because it's not happening now doesn't mean it's not happening. Don't rush what God is still refining. Faith is not just believing God will move, it's resting while you wait. It's declaring, even if I don't see it yet, I trust you. Even if it doesn't look like it, I know you're working. Even if it takes longer than I hoped, I know your way is better than mine. That's what it means to leave it in God's hands. So many people live life like it's up to them and pray like it's up to God, but when you truly believe it's in God's hands, your actions start to reflect your belief. You stop stressing about outcomes. You stop losing sleep over things outside your control. You stop striving for things God never assigned you to carry. God is not impressed by your hustle. He's moved by your heart. When your heart is surrendered, your steps are ordered. And when your steps are ordered, you start to walk into things that no human effort could have produced. You step into favor you didn't earn. You walk through doors you didn't knock on. You receive provision you didn't even pray for, because you're walking in alignment. And alignment is everything. The right thing at the wrong time is still the wrong thing. But when your life is aligned with God's timing, you don't have to chase opportunities, they find you. You don't have to beg for blessings, they overtake you. That's the power of divine surrender. This isn't about giving up your dreams. It's about placing your dreams in the hands of the dream giver. It's about trusting that He sees the full picture while you only see a piece of the puzzle. And when He's the one assembling the picture, you can rest knowing that nothing is wasted. Not your pain, not your delays, not even your mistakes. God is the only one who can take what was meant for evil and turn it for good, but He can redeem what you won't release. If you're still holding on to it, trying to fix it, trying to hide it, trying to carry it, then you're not giving Him access. But when you give it to Him, you're not just giving Him the problem, you're inviting in the power. You can't experience the full blessing of God while living half surrendered. It's all or nothing. God doesn't want a piece of your life, He wants the whole thing. And when you give it all to Him, you get to live in the freedom of knowing that you are no longer responsible for outcomes. Your job is obedience. His job is results. And trust me, God is better at being God than you are. He doesn't sleep, He doesn't panic, and He doesn't guess. He knows, He sees, He guides, and He holds. You are not falling apart, you're falling into His plan. You are not being overlooked, you're being hidden for the right time. You are not forgotten, you're being prepared. So don't give up, don't retreat, don't settle. You've come too far to turn back now, but stop trying to do it alone. Lay it down, let go, and trust that the same God who created you is able to carry you. Leave it in His hands. That's where the miracles happen. That's where the breakthroughs begin. That's where peace floods your soul like a river.